Hi, everybody. This is Christopher Phillips, Mr. Socrates Cafe. Or is it Dr. Socrates Cafe? Because I do have a PhD, though I don't play a doctor on TV. So, and I don't like people to call me doctor. I earned my PhD at 50, and it just seems, it's not why I earned it, to be called doctor. I got in trouble. So Claire Daio, you're my guest today. You're in New York City, ground zero, coronavirus.
Yes, I just heard about 30 minutes ago the rest of my spring semester is going to be distance education.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, well, first, Claire, before we go into all this is your third time that you have done one of these exchanges with me. We go way back. This is the first time we've seen each other.
Uh-huh.
Am I as scary as I think I am? Am I scary?
No, I've seen your face before. I knew what you looked like.
Oh, okay. So I'm not so, okay.
No.
So we first were in touch when you were at University of Vermont.
Yeah, correct. Four years ago.
So you heard about me?
I found Socrates Cafe, I read it, and it resonated with me a lot, especially the one conversation in the book about, am I remembering this right? A philosophy PhD candidate who shows you his thesis and says, I could turn this in right now, but I don't agree with what I say because I feel like I haven't learned anything, and that's where
I don't know if I should talk about that. I got in trouble with that. Academics either love me or hate me.
Right.
There's no in between. I mean, it's not like I'm not one of them. I got my bachelor's at the College of William and Mary, which is a very well-known school. I earned 3 master's degrees, and then I earned a PhD. So it's not like I'm anti-scholarship.
But there are, yeah, I can see how you could be polarizing.
No, but that's all we need is enough. But I didn't mean to be. I do this for free, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
go ahead.
I went to one college, and they just said, well, what are you trying to do? Take us out of a job? And I'm just looking at him stupefied. It's like, how can I take you out of a job when I get no salary, no benefits, totally independent, everything? And he actually was threatened by me. This was a chair of a department, of a pretty prominent department.
Yeah, it does seem, sometimes it does seem that way, or I feel like sometimes an experience in academia could feel a lot like these people aren't actually trying to do what they say they're doing, which is educate, and they're really just trying to keep the machine running.
The academic industrial complex. Now, I have to say I have many friends, dear friends, who are full-time professors, adjunct professors, and they have a great sense of mission. And in fact, they help me do what I do, and they support me. They may be the decided minority. I honestly don't know, but it never ceases to amaze me that some academics actually feel threatened by what I do. Though, I mean, I don't pull my punches. I don't even understand some of the jargon that some of these characters write in. And I mean, I do think that elegant writing and elegant thinking go hand in glove, but it's hard work. There's no shortcuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no shortcuts. And so when they churn out these academic papers and they have this CV with like 9 billion of these essays, and I look at them and they're writing, it scares me. It scares me. I don't get it. They call it formal writing. And I'm like, what's formal about it? It's awful.
Right.
And I write awfully too, but I polish it. Thinking evolves in the process,
Yeah. I'm working through a a paper that I'm reading right now for one of my classes called Envirodevonomics. That's the topic of the paper, which is a new mutation of environmental economics and developmental economics. And it is dense.
Dense. There's a good word. See, you're more diplomatic than I am. That's why you'll go far in life. What you call it dense, I call impenetrable.
Right.
See,
Yeah.
that's why. How old are you? 20, what?
I'm 21.
21. Okay, I'm 60. This is why I've just gone nowhere in life. I have to write these books because.
I wouldn't say that. I would not say that.
Well, okay, but I just got coronaed. I was going to go. My book was just recently published in Saudi Arabia. I was going to their international book fair. I was going to be a rock star, and they canceled it. And so I've invented this new term, with all due respect, called "I got corona."
Yeah, it seems like everything's coming to a quick halt.
Yes. All right, Claire. You know why I like you so much? Because what is that? Like a dentist?
That was a notification.
Okay. All right. You are never say die. I mean, you actually kindly sent me your essay that you're submitting to Columbia and elsewhere, and I didn't really know your story. And so I've known you now for 4 years. We've been in touch on and off, and you were a bartender's assistant. You call it a bar back.
Yes. That's the official title.
That's the official title. No, but you had all these amazing experiences. You know, you wanted to go for the longest time to Brown. I don't think I ever told you this. I had a friend who his college was a competitor of Brown's. And so at sporting events, they would scream out, "What's the color of horse manure?" Brown, brown, brown.
That's funny. That's a good one.
So anyway, but so you're now at the cusp. You're in school. You're taking some fairly cool classes from time to time, even if it's some density. But your aspirations are to continue elsewhere. But when I read your essay and the things that you've overcome, I'm like, man, how can anybody say no to this young man? Why would they want to have you in there based on your experiences? I think.
That. Thank you.
Well, tell me what you shared a little bit in your essay.
So yeah, my essay is basically breaking down my academic history, which starts out with being diagnosed as ADHD and dyslexic. And so when I was diagnosed, I was sent to a new school, the Windward School is an education for students with language-based learning disabilities, and they taught me how to read. I really didn't know how to read before then, and then after that, 2 years of that, I went back into traditional school. I went to a boarding school, but traditional, more or less. And from then on, as I reflect back, I realized that I wasn't paying any attention to my learning disabilities because I really didn't. I did not see the effects. And especially going to such a small school for high school, classes no more than 12 students, it's easy to get used to something an environment being catered to you. And then when I went to the University of Vermont, that was not the case, obviously. And I really felt like in the worst way possible, I was in public for the first time ever. And so through the first year while I was at Vermont, I really struggled with this battle between my smart self, I knew that I was smart, and so I could not figure out why I wasn't doing well in school. And I still was ignoring my diagnosis because I didn't want to admit what I knew was true.
But it wasn't just you. It's not like you operate in a vacuum. It seems like the whole system was sort
Right,
of not
right. So
working well.
yeah, so it's a term that I learned just recently is neurotypical. So if you don't operate like a neurotypical person, it's very hard for you to get what you need in a neurotypical environment, especially if you have simply an example is a different learning style. So a lecture-based education caters to a auditory learning style, and if you don't learn that way, it's very hard for you to even digest the information. So if I have a verbal learning style, so I can hear something, I need to repeat it in my own words before I can really understand the information. So Vermont was difficult, and I was trying to find the answers outside of being learning disabled. I was trying to find some other explanation for this, which was the educational system is broken. So I left Vermont, and I said, I'm going to try to educate myself in some other ways that will keep me stimulated.
And we batted around a lot of possibilities. We've been doing
Right,
that for a long time.
right, yeah. And so I came to New York, and just kind of out of necessity, I had to find a job, which was working at a bar and being a barback, which doesn't sound like a very educational experience, but it absolutely was. First, just being in an environment where almost everyone was 10 years my senior, it was enlightening, I would say. And through that, I was able to gain my intellectual confidence that I had lost in the first year of college, and I realized that I still love school and I love learning, and that really is the only place I found this level of satisfaction for work, and I haven't found it anywhere else. So I finally came to terms with the fact that my learning disabilities will never go away. I'm gonna have them forever, and I can't ignore the fact that I do exist in a neurotypical world predominantly. So I have got to gain the tools that I need to do what I want. So I found an ADHD coach that I work with still, learning about, number one, just educating myself on how my brain works and why it differs from the normal person. And then what do you do with that information? How do you navigate the whatever the task or the goal is? How do you navigate that in a way that will cater to my personal workings of my brain? And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm now back in school, almost full time. And I am trying right now to transfer again to another school that really has the programs that I'm looking for.
Which is what?
Which is, so one of the first schools that do have an engineering program, I am trying to get into the chemical engineering program.
Wow.
And without so at Columbia, I'm trying to get into the Earth Institute. They have a sustainable development major, and especially at Columbia, I think it would be really great just because the core curriculum has so much philosophy embedded within it. I will also be able to get the philosophical side of interest that I do have.
Well, that sounds really cool. I actually, over the last years, I've gotten a lot of invites in sustainable development institutes and within colleges across the U.S. So obviously there's a kindredness to what I'm doing and the whole method that I use and that they have exploited. Quite often they don't even let me know that they're using it. That was the case at Clemson and at a college in Corvallis, Oregon. I got invited to Portland State University to their sustainability development program to speak about things, and even about how do we even decide what a problem is in the area of sustainability.
Something that, so just I think probably like 2 weeks ago in my Greek philosophy class, I read The Divided Line and The Cave for the third time, but the last time I read it I read anything from Plato was probably 5 years ago or something. And after reading it again, I brought it into a discussion in my environmental conservation and natural resource management class about, right now we're looking at the palm oil industry and what the mega corporations are doing to places like Indonesia and Malaysia and stuff. And I kept thinking about the cave and this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this idea that we all have the capacity for knowledge through reason, and some people are just facing the wrong direction, and you can show them the truth by turning their head in the right direction. Correct? Is that right?
I'm just going to let you go with this.
Okay.
I want to hear the Claire Daio.
So I'm thinking, as I care a lot about the environment, and I do a lot of work with sustainability and conservation and things like that. But one issue that I have not found anything close to a solution for is, how do you have a conversation with someone that runs an oil company or runs a unsustainable palm oil company and that don't share the same values as you? How do you get them to see the importance of rainforests and clean water and things like that? And so I think this idea of turning someone's head can really apply to this. How to do that, I've not figured out yet, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, that's an interesting place to be. The idea for me is that if we assume that we are at polar opposites rather than getting to know one another better, we might well discover some uncommon common ground. And then we sort of get out of debate and proselytizing mode and just try to understand why we're coming from where we're coming from. We might discover matrices of commonality that we didn't know we had existed.
Right.
And I think in 99.99% of cases, that's what happens if we take that time. I would dare say that there's lots of people who are well-meaning, well-intentioned. You get caught up in certain things. You got to support the family, but you still may have lots of underlying ideals that may have just got shunned by the wayside. And they may often be in these mega corporations and the academic industrial complex, wherever. I mean, you got to get by. You got to make a living.
Right.
And, we make lots of choices, and it gets harder as the years go on, and you have a family and lots of different things. But it's probably there's people of goodwill in positions of authority within those companies who would welcome you aboard, and you would find some areas of interest where they would let you do your thing and be of help to them.
I absolutely agree with you on that point. I think something that I've learned in the past year is that I think for most people, like the super majority of people, everyone thinks that they are the good guy. It just, you're the good guy fighting a different battle than someone else, and you're fighting for something else, but
Or maybe
everyone.
you're a good guy who's lost your way.
Right.
Maybe you're worried about other things. Just maybe you're worried about a daughter who is having some issues, and you'd do anything to you'd sell your soul maybe to just create the circumstances where she can find her own way. You've had your shot I'm talking about adults. Lots of things come into play, but we can't even know that until we get to know each other's story a little bit. I mean, you shared things in your essay, and I was so honored that I didn't know about you. And so it helped. It's enriching to me. And as I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old daughter, and some of the things that we're trying to deal with right now. She was misdiagnosed scandalously when she was younger. I won't go into any detail. It's not fair to her. But I had to be her fiercest advocate. It was just even to this day, my blood boils when I think of what some people wanted us to do, just based on their own deficiencies and inadequacies. Oh,
Right.
it's her. Oh, it's her. It's her. I mean, and even atypical things. I mean, I'm thinking, do we really want you to be neurotypical? What insights might you
Right.
come to and come out with because of this unique capacity? Because it's like majority rules, like being colorblind. Because the colorblind are in the minority, then they're colorblind.
Right.
I mean, all these things. I don't mean to oversimplify, but
definitely not innately bad. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is, you can't ignore the fact that it obviously, with any minority, it's more difficult.
Sure, it absolutely is. But it's been a real lesson for me as a parent advocate I have to fight some battles, and I likely will for many years to come with some things. But you do it also not just for your child, but because people have a will to label and to simplify and to cubbyhole in ways that aren't helpful to anybody quite often. Sometimes labels are absolutely necessary and helpful, but sometimes they just say more about our own deficiencies than those that we're labeling and judging. So there's no shortcuts. We got to know complexities in people's stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I am disadvantaged on that part just because I do live in New York City, and New York City operates so differently than
Yes.
the rest of
The daughter I'm referring to was born in Midtown Manhattan by midwife. That's where we lived. So we know very well.
And I haven't lived any other than Vermont. I haven't lived anywhere else. So being in this liberal bubble is definitely it's nice, like experientially it's nice, but it's not really conducive to I guess trying to understand the other side of the argument, or my argument.
And now classes are being canceled, and people who have never had any experience teaching online are going to be teaching online, even at Harvard, where there was not one diagnosed case of coronavirus. Canceled classes. Most people have no clue how to go about suddenly operating online. And so there's panic, fear. People who say that they're at the vanguard of this are actually maybe at the vanguard of cascading panic and fear in and of itself. I'm always fascinated by mass movements
Right.
But there's
Uh,
all opportunities that come out of these
I just coincidentally, I just read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, all about epidemics, mostly social, but I think this is definitely just as much a social epidemic as it is a viral one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very new territory, even though there is past, the Spanish influenza epidemic. But it's some scary stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just want my family to be safe, and I don't want my daughters to be over afraid, but I do want them to be careful.
Right.
And my wife too. And I travel for a living, so obviously everybody's worried about me. Claire, we managed to go all this time, and we're supposed to have a Socrates Cafe, you and me. We're almost out of time. See, you did it to me again. You got me. Now listen. So you had asked me when you asked me to read your essay. You had all these incredible questions. So we're gonna have to philosophize on the clock now.
Okay.
But then we'll do it again. But you had asked me, how do you even know when you're really focused, right? I mean, how do
Right.
you block out that second voice? Do you block it out? But how do you ever really know that you're really focused? What does it even mean?
Yeah. So that question came to me first. I'm ADHD, so focus takes up a lot of my internal conversations and a lot of this educational process that I'm going through to learn about what my diagnosis really means. And so that's one part of it. And then I have also, I guess, as a part of this ADHD education, then I've been learning a lot about meditation. And
Mm,
I had learned through this interview that I heard of Sam Harris
mm,
about meditation, and he put it in a way that I really appreciated. And he says, we think of time as our most non-renewable resource because we never know how much we have left. We don't know
mm,
when it's all going to end. But if you think about it, that is what it really comes down to is your attention, because you can have all the time in the world, but if you're not putting your attention where you want it to go,
mm.
then it doesn't really matter how much time you have if you are a victim to every external stimuli. um, and so yeah, through that I really started to think about where is my attention going, when do I have control over it, and how can you reel that control back in.
I have so many thoughts. Number one, even as I'm listening to you, and you can tell I'm listening, right? There was a fly on my cup, and I was like obsessed with killing it. But I could, but so that's one thought. The other thing is that I think we have societal ADHD. I mean,
Yes.
I go to people's homes and they have a TV like an altar in every single room, a media center, above and beyond now all the apps that they have, and they're constantly on, and all the hideous video games. I mean, it's just like, I don't want, if that's normal, I don't want a thing to do with it.
Mm.
And I have trouble. I have OCD, and I have trouble. Actually, that's the first time I've said that publicly. Um, I have trouble getting off my app and focusing on my work. But when I do focus on things, whether it's listening to another human being or finally crossing that threshold into the realm of my work, whether it's a Socrates Cafe that's live or a book that I'm working on, I really focus in a way that is not just self-centered, but it's self-centered and selfless-centered at the same time. I don't know how else to put it.
I think I heard also from Sam Harris, the true meaning of focus is when you are so in it that you almost disappear.
Ah,
The
God.
you in
Yeah.
your thoughts almost disappears. And then he does a fun little experiment. If you put your hand up, you are looking at your hand, and then he asks you to look for what is looking.
Oh.
Look behind, if you can look behind your eyes and realize that there's nothing there. There's no center of.
You know what? Now I'm gonna. Oh my God! You don't have any idea who you're dealing with. Now that's gonna. I'll never write another word the rest of the day. I'm gonna be thinking about this.
It's really interesting
That's
that
fascinating.
when you put it into perspective like that.
It's fascinating. I have. There's so many things I would like to say. I received the world's most miserable public school education. I have a real attention deficit when it comes to focusing on anything. And yet I've written 5 books that have been really popular scholarly books. You have no idea what I have to do to cross that threshold and stay focused for a while. And it's actually gotten harder now with this kind of stuff and the apps and everything. And we don't have TV at home. But so there's 2 different things. It's like if I focus on my writing, time passes outside of common hours and I lose track of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good way. But if I focus on these things, hours pass and I lose track of time and I feel like I have violated the rules of the universe and frittering away my time. Truly, I do it so much. I could have written another 20 books if it wasn't for my obsession with stuff like this.
Yeah, it's hard. The phone is so hard to rationalize, I guess. Because it's useful, but then where do you draw the line?
So I have all these things now. I have self-control on my computer, and I have this app called Flipped on my cell phone. And even then, I'm finding that there's ways around it, and it's horrible. And yet I still get the work done. It just takes me an extra 63,000 years, But I worry about the absolute lack of focus on the most important things. I have friends who just watch this 24-hour nonsensical news reports that tell us nothing new. Like right now about coronavirus, there's just people watching this stuff all the time.
All day.
All day. And so it's like, gosh, if that's what being focused and normal is, I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, the news thing specifically, I think that really has something to, I think that is people thinking that they are practicing politics by staying informed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that I'll keep to myself right now.
Okay.
But so how do you feel about where you are right now, Claire? I mean, are you feeling like you're getting that sense of focus of direction, whether things work out exactly like you want to or not?
I think I don't know yet how to manage that voice, that I voice. And so sometimes it is very loud when it doesn't need to be. And so trying to navigate or trying to figure out whether even I have control over it, which is a weird thing to think about, that I could not have control over the I voice.
Yeah, do you want total control over it?
No. But it's hard.
It'd be nice to.
Yeah, it's hard when it's hard to recognize the value of it when it's inconvenient.
Yes, that's so beautifully put. So, but how you're looking good. You look like you're feeling good about yourself right now.
I am. I'm in classes that are very interesting right now. So that's definitely been a big help, because I do want to do my work. It's a whole different story when you don't want to do it, though.
Amen.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know, and I still know I do things I don't like to do because I got to get by somehow. Well,
Right.
Claire, all I have to say is to be continued. Let's do this again.
Yes.
Sooner the better. And thanks as always for the gift of your time. I always learn from you.
Okay, great.
What, are you leaving me?
Oh, no.
No,
I
I'm
thought
kidding.
it was over.
I just wanted to see your reaction. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Claire.